Alright guys, this is the grammar lesson for adjectives. Remember, the nice thing about videos is you can pause and rewind as you need to. So go ahead and just follow along and we'll go ahead and get started. When you're growing up, adjectives are always described as describing words. Kind of the fancy format that most grammar books use is this idea of modifying nouns or pronouns. Okay, a noun is any person, place, thing, or idea. So for example, red can be an adjective, happy can be an adjective, obnoxious and quick can both be adjectives. So typically what I like to do is draw an arrow towards the word that it modifies. When it comes to suffixes, this is something that's added to the end of the word to either a noun or a verb to make it an adjective. So for example, beauty is a noun, and if we drop the Y and add the full, we have the adjective form beautiful. All three of these are adjectives. Notice that style is a verb. Read is a verb and style is a noun. When it comes to the placement of adjectives, it is important to note that in English it goes before the noun it modifies. There's always kind of that caveat. If there needs to be special emphasis, there might be exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, you'll see the noun over here and the adjective in front. Go ahead and write your own 2 examples down here at the bottom. Pause the video and create your own. When it comes to possessives, an adjective is often used to describe a noun of something that is owned, and the adjective should always follow the possessive noun or pronoun. So for example, we know that this is a possessive because of the apostrophe S. An example of a possessive pronoun would be the word their. So for example, their car. Actually, I need to add an adjective. Their white car. They possess the car, but the adjective is white, modifying and telling what color the car is. So just notice here we have yellow as our adjective, blue as our adjective. Okay, this is important. Articles are considered adjectives. They're like a subcategory, and so you have to pay attention on your worksheets if it asks you to include the articles or not. Sometimes it'll say include all adjectives, including articles, and sometimes it will let you know ahead of time that you don't need to worry about including articles in your answers. So if you're not sure when you get to the homework, just double check and raise your hand and ask me, but it normally says it very clearly in the directions whether or not you need to include articles in your answer. So for example, articles define something as specific or non-specific. After the long day, the cup of tea tasted good. The is our specific article, and so we call it the definite article. It was this one exact day and this one specific cup of tea. Is our indefinite article, which means unspecific. So it could be after any day, any cup of tea will taste really good. So you just want to keep in mind the difference between the two. The is specific and un is unspecific. Another note is that a and un are indefinite. You only use un if you have the next word that starts with a vowel. So for example, apple starts with an A, and A is a vowel. So you would have to use the word un instead of the article a. Predicate adjective is something a little bit more complex in terms of grammar, but you guys will learn more about that in junior year. However, I just like to go over it so people have an idea. Essentially, it involves a linking verb, and it's when the linking verb is the main verb. So any adjective that comes after a linking verb is considered a predicate adjective. So for example, our verb is, the kittens were unimpressed. Where is our linking verb? Unimpressed is describing kittens, but because it's after the verb, it's a predicate adjective. Second example, the sky was multicolored. Multicolored is an adjective modifying sky, but because it comes after a linking verb, we know that it's the predicate adjective. Same with clean. Is our linking verb, and it is modifying, clean is modifying stove. I'll write a nice little list here for you of linking verbs, just a reminder. And then you have some tricky ones like feel or seems, tastes. Okay, so there is a list of linking verbs that don't look like the other to be verbs, but just keep that in mind as you work through your homework. Proper adjectives are anything that have been formed from a proper noun. So for example, you could take the last name Shakespeare and turn it into an adjective. Oh. Not just any poem, but a Shakespearean poem. And then same with like different types of drinks. Thai tea. Thai is obviously based off of the country Thailand and that culture. So Thai tea would be specific in describing that. I'm going to write down a couple notes. Typically it comes from a name, a country or culture, a brand. I thought there was one more. I think that's our list. Name, country, culture, brand. So for example, it would be different to just say theme park versus Disneyland theme park. Disneyland is a specific brand, and it would be specifying what type of theme park, so it would be considered a proper adjective. Going to the next slide, we have comparative and superlative adjectives. Notice that a comparative adjective will compare two things. We typically use the ending er. Superlative, on the other hand, is two or more, and it typically has the ending of est. He is richer than her. We have is as our linking verb, richer as our predicate adjective, and it is comparing two people. On the other hand, here for our superlative, we have he is the richest person I know. Once again, we have our adjective and our linking verb, but it's three or more people. If you only know one person, then that would be, you would have to do it differently, but you know a lot of people. So if you say that someone is the richest person you know, you are comparing them to a very large group of people. Okay, here are a list of some of the irregular. So note here, this is the original form, and then this is the comparative form, and this is the superlative. So the box kind of moves this way. Pay attention to some of the details in which you have vowel changes. Also notice here, obviously, the word completely changes. You have better and best, elder, and eldest. This is fair game for your quiz, so just make sure you remember to review this list before taking our quiz on adjectives. Adjectives that also act as pronouns. So our next lesson is actually on pronouns. So this is kind of like a part 1 out of 2 steps to getting familiar with these words. But for example, a word may be used as more than one part of speech. So it can either be a pronoun, sorry, my pen died. Let me see if I can disconnect it. So for example, sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, so you have 2 categories, both pronouns and adjectives. If it's an adjective, it's going to be specifying a noun. So books is our noun, and it's describing which books are overdue or late. If it's acting as the noun, typically it'll be the subject of the sentence. Notice this is the verb, making these the subject. So you just want to pay attention to when these specific words in this box end up acting as an adjective versus when they're acting as a noun or the subject of a sentence. So this is just a list to kind of have in your notes so you can refer back to it, but also something that could pop up on your homework. So just make sure you ask questions with the help desk form if you have more questions regarding this. And then the last thing I have is just this idea that certain nouns can be used as adjectives. So for example, you have sofa cushion. What kind of cushion? It could be a cushion in the car. It could be a cushion on like an ottoman, but this specifically is describing a sofa cushion, so that would be the adjective. You would have to ask yourself, what pudding? Is it chocolate pudding? Is it vanilla pudding? In this case, it's bread pudding, so notice that bread would be an adjective. Same with hotel, describing what kind of lobby. And then glass marbles. Okay, so all of those words by themselves would be considered nouns, but in their current form, they are modifying the nouns that follow them. Hopefully this is a brief intro to adjectives for you guys, or for some of us a review. Make sure you fill out the notes as you work through the packet, and let me know if you have further questions.